Sure, we're all set up. If you hopped on a moment or two early, welcome. We're getting set up on our end. How's it look, Paul, Gabriella? Yeah, looking good? All right. Well, good evening and welcome, parents. I am Katie Page, and before we get started, I thought we would all introduce ourselves, those of us that you are seeing on the screen. So again, my name is Katie, and this is my 23rd year in the district, primarily as a physics teacher, but I've always had my hand in tech initiatives. So now I'm the instructional technology coordinator, and my full-time job is to support staff in this role. I help them use their iPads in the classroom, sometimes something as simple as helping them navigate their MacBooks. But mostly these days we are integrating AI, which is why all of you are here. And I just wanted to let you know that I have worked in several 214 schools, but I'm also a 214 graduate. And I was a 214 parent. My kids went through Prospect High School. So I have worn all of the hats, and I'm very excited that you're joining us tonight. Gabriella?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm Gabriella Stitz-Jackson, Director of Professional Learning, and I have the privilege of working with Katie and all of our other instructional coaches throughout all of our comprehensive high schools and at Forest View, and overseeing the mentor program, the new teacher program, onboarding, graduate study, and all things professional learning for our support staff, our licensed staff, and our administrators and supervisors as well.
Hi, I'm Paul Fikes. I'm Assistant Director of Technology Services and Support. So I primarily oversee the help desk teams across the district, helping with iPad issues, helping with repairs, things like that. And then also I deal a lot with the software and different tools that our students are using on their devices.
Yeah, and Paul, you also do all of the things like speakers and wiring and projectors and all the things right down to the clocks. So welcome. We're excited for tonight. I just wanted to say up front that there is a lot of tech on our end. We are not professional live streamers, but now we have a new line item on our resumes. But we are all very good with technology, so we're not anticipating anything to go wrong tonight. But in the event that something goes awry, please just stand by and have faith that we will be back if for some reason we go missing. So tonight, here's our agenda. We're going to learn a little bit about what AI is, just in case you don't know. And then we're going to talk about some frameworks that are new to the district this year that we're using with both staff and students. There are two more series coming up in this parent series. There's one for translation, and we're going to show how you can utilize AI to enhance translation services. And then the one after that in March is going to be AI for parents, more of like a hands-on, walking you through how you can leverage AI to help your student, and then also to help your student help themselves using AI. So a little bit more housekeeping. If you want to add to the chat, there is a chat feature here on this live stream. You have to be logged in for it to work. Don't worry if you didn't get logged in and you don't see the chat, it's okay. You can always email me questions if they don't get answered by the end of this presentation today, and it'll be fine. But if you are logged in, you can feel free to add questions as we go along, and Gabriella and Paul are manning that part of this live stream, and we'll make sure that we get to those questions at the end. So let's get started. I wanted to start with this graphic from commonsense.org. I borrowed it from them. And it's a nice little representation of how generative AI fits into the greater AI category. You can think of it like transportation. So transportation would be the broad category, and then motor vehicles would be another subcategory, and then electric self-driving cars would be even the lowest, another subcategory of that. And that's where generative AI fits in. So AI and machine learning, and actually generative AI, have been around for 70 years. It seems like it's new because we're all talking about it all of the time. But a long time ago, there was an English mathematician. His name was Alan Turing, and he asked a really important question, which was, can machines think? And a very profound question that he asked. And he really got the AI movement started with that very question. And so that was way back in the 1950s. And even back at that time at MIT, they had generative AI, not exactly what we saw in November of 2022 with ChatGPT, but they did have generative AI. There was a chatbot called Eliza that they had, and that was way back in the 60s. So even though it seems like it's new, AI has been around a very long time. A couple simple examples, if you were to explain it to your neighbor or tell your kids when they get home, because maybe they don't know. If you were going to talk about artificial intelligence, a nice example is what you're seeing on the screen there, which is predictive text. So on your cell phone, when you're texting, sometimes it starts to fill in the word because it's predicting what you're going to say next. That's a nice, solid example of artificial intelligence. A machine learning example, that's a subcategory of artificial intelligence. It's like studying for a test. The more problems that a computer sees, the better it gets at answering questions. The thing that you would see today on your phone is if you've ever looked at your photo app, like in Google Photos, it'll say, is this the same or different person? Because it will categorize your photos like under a person's name, which I love that tool, both on my iPhone and also in Google Photos, because like if it's my mom's birthday, I can just look for my mom because it knows what she looks like and it'll pull up only pictures of my mom. So that's an example of machine learning. Or on your music app, when you're listening to your music app and it learns your taste, like on Spotify, and it starts to recommend songs for you, that's a great example of machine learning. Generative AI is what we're going to talk about today. The generative AI we use in District 214 is Gemini. Most of you have probably heard of ChatGPT. Those are just two different companies. OpenAI is ChatGPT. Google is Gemini, and we're a Google district. We live in a Google workspace, and so Gemini is what we use. And generative AI is, it can come up with, they don't just like repeat data, they can generate a response based on patterns that they've learned. And we're going to show you specifically a lot of those examples today. So during this presentation, we're going to be referring to generative AI, or what we call Gen AI, or I might say Gemini, which is Google's product. And all of that is just like ChatGPT. And we're going to be showing you some fun examples with all of the things that we are doing in the district. So before we move on to some of those examples, I wanted to talk about the comparison of AI to a calculator or when Google was new. So I hear a lot of parents or people in the community, my family members, sometimes staff, sometimes students saying, you know, remember when calculators and Google were new? Like Gen AI is just like that. We don't need to worry about it. With education, maybe it's a passing trend. You know, eventually it'll just be, you know, into the fabric, although I do believe that last statement. That's not quite true. It is not really like calculators. It's not really like Google. And these 4 reasons are why. So agency. Gen AI can make independent choices about content or interpretation of your request. You know, a calculator can't do that. It's very human-like. It communicates in very natural language. So it can make you feel like you're having a conversation. Responses will say something like, I like this, or you're right, you know, or if something didn't go right, it'll even say, oh, I'm sorry, you know, let me try again with that answer. And so that can create a very false impression about the capabilities or reliability, but it is not a thinking being, right? It just kind of feels human-like. Also the generality, it can be applied to almost any task. And then the ethical complexity. So it has human-like interactions, and it creates new ethical considerations around authenticity, around bias and misinformation, and the impact on learning and creativity. So what does all of this mean for District 214? So these four differences mean that generative AI requires a different approach from previous technologies. It's not like teaching a student how to use a calculator or like spell check on a computer. Educators are having much more intentional consideration of when and how to use these tools, and we're starting to teach our students the same thing. So this is why starting with people, with values, with ideas, rather than the technology itself is especially important. We trust the professional judgment of our staff navigating these new capabilities, and it's going to require a lot of responsibility from us as educators, from you as parents, which is why I'm glad you're here tonight, and mostly from our students. So we're starting to teach them to start using AI with values, and we've got some frameworks to help them out, and I'm going to show you that piece. Before we get there, this picture here, I'm pretty excited about. We started an innovation and change committee in the district, and we got 60 volunteers from all around District 214, from all 7 buildings, and from every level of staff. We have lots of teaching staff, we have support staff, administrators, even 2 board members, and students on this innovation and change committee. Very organically came together. And we meet quarterly to discuss things like academic integrity, how to best incorporate AI, and we share ideas and have a real deep collaboration among our members. And that's one way that we start with our values and with people as a district as a part of our vision. And Gabriella, can you discuss a little bit more about the district's vision and the strategic plan and how that kind of fits all into the greater district journey?
Definitely. I'm sure you all know, as you've seen communications about the recent launch of the District 214 strategic plan. Within that plan, there are the 4 goals that you see here. And in the teaching and learning department, where Katie and I reside, we've gotten to work very closely on 2 of these 4 goals: engaging students in meaningful learning and reimagining learning through innovation. In goal 1, we've been working on creating a portrait of an educator, looking at what those high impact instructional strategies are that definitely move the needle for students, unpacking the portrait of a graduate, those competencies, building out how we're going to assess their learning throughout their 4 years so that they do embody that portrait of a graduate. And then in goal 4, working on the innovation piece here with Katie, we're definitely starting with that innovation and change committee. It's really important for us to hear the voices of all the folks, from the students all the way to the community. And so this committee has given us a great way of doing that. Dr. Hubbard, our associate superintendent, whenever he sees these 4 goals on a slide, he likes to tell everyone that they're in no particular order. They're not in an order of importance, and that he believes that goal 2 is actually our most important goal, fostering belonging and student wellness, which definitely works with our goal 4 and our goal 1 as well, and making sure that students feel comfortable in doing all of the things involved in meaningful learning and in innovation as well. So we've been on an exciting journey since the strategic plan launched, and it's been great having Katie in her newer role along the ride for goal 4B.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We are doing a lot of cool and fun stuff along the way. So one of the fun things is that I am also still getting to work with students. So even though I'm not in the classroom anymore, it's my 2nd year away from the classroom in this full-time job, I get to work with kids. So this logo on the left-hand side here was designed by a student at Buffalo Grove High School. And she's in an AP design course. And actually, Gabriella had the brilliant idea because, as you might imagine, this role that I'm in has exploded in the last year and a half. And so I will take any help that I can get. And she was like, hey, you know, we have a lot of kids in AP design. Get them going on this. I was great. So I gave her the portrait of a graduate words, and she put those around the outside. And then I gave her the pieces of our AI journey, which is the leadership and strategy, teaching and learning, professional growth, and community engagement. And she put those all here like little pie pieces. Dr. Rowe likes to say that he thinks that this looks like the old Simon game, right? But I love that. That makes me happy, Simon. So I think that's a win-win if we can think about a fun childhood game. while we're looking at this beautiful logo that she made. And really what this logo represents is that AI is not just a tech initiative, it's really a holistic plan. So our leadership and strategy, our AI leadership team is going to provide, proactive guidance, safety on the safety side, on the vision, the policy, all of that. Teaching and learning is really what Gabriella and I were just talking about. We are already supporting staff all of the time. We have professional development weekly. I had a 3-hour workshop this morning with staff all around AI. And the professional growth too, we're going to make sure that we're empowering staff to get that all into embedded into their workflows, and then also get students involved. And then community engagement, you're here, right? So we want to partner with families to navigate AI together. And after this live stream tonight, after this event, I'm sending out a little feedback survey. And if you have specific questions or ideas or things that you would like to see in the future, how we could further engage, we want to know those ideas as well. Okay, this is one of the frameworks that kids have seen. I'm going to call it a soft rollout. This year we have things kind of coming out into the district at different times. So kids have seen it, staff have seen it. There hasn't been like explicit training around this yet. So you guys are getting kind of an exclusive front row seat to this one. But we have specific training coming up in the next couple weeks here for staff and then for students following that. But this is our RISE logo. And this is just a way for students and staff to think about AI, and they can ask themselves the question, did I rise to the challenge? And so R is responsibility and respect. And the main principle around that is to emphasize the human voice. So we want to focus on the process and not just the product. So the student and or the staff member is going to remain the chief editor and the original contributor. Students and staff are responsible for taking ownership over the final work and double checking what AI produced and respecting the learning goals as they work. Integrity, right? Everybody could use a little integrity. And so the principle here is really to have transparency in this AI era. So we're encouraging students to use AI as a creative partner, but they should be transparent about how they leverage it. So a conversation we might have with a student is, how did you use AI to think bigger? Or how did you use AI to help you create your original work? And the one thing about integrity that we want to make sure that students know for sure is that using AI as a substitute for original thought or for original content is definitely considered academic dishonesty. So anything that is AI generated that contributes to ideas or texts teachers are going to ask kids to be citing what that is. We've got another way for them to show that I'll show you on the next slide. Safety, we talked about already with Paul Fikes, and we basically want to keep our data safe, and we want to make sure they're logged in with their district credentials so that they have guardrails. For example, Gemini that we use instead of ChatGPT, we have signed agreements with them. They have something called Gemini Teen, and there are guardrails built in. So kids can't just prompt AI about anything. If it's inappropriate, it gets flagged. So safety is important. And then E, equity, ethics, empathy. We couldn't choose an E. That's okay. They're all important. And so we want to be aware very much of AI biases, and we want to verify AI generated content for accuracy. Ethics is going to be embedded in the instruction, and we're trying to ask ourselves, are we making sure and considering how AI might be affecting others? So fostering this culture is going to hopefully ensure that all students develop the critical thinking and the adaptability, and we're just going to prepare them to be creators and innovators with these new tools. This is just the same RISE framework I wanted to show you. This is a poster that might be hanging in a classroom, and so teachers might ask themselves, am I setting clear guidelines for how AI should be used. And then kids might ask themselves, am I following my teacher's guidelines for using AI appropriately? And you can just see this is a nice little window into the classroom and how we would be setting that out for kids. This is another one that that staff can use. People in the very beginning, when ChatGPT was really starting to take hold, there used to be like a stoplight model, which is a little bit elementary for high school kids. But this is kind of the same idea. Like a teacher can put this poster up in the room and just kind of point to it, or they can also include it in their syllabus or include it alongside an assignment and say, this is what I'm expecting for this particular assignment. No AI, or maybe you're collaborating. Maybe we're diving in completely on AI and using it completely to help us brainstorm or something like that. And then there's a little information there for students to read to make clear how they would be using that. Okay, so let's talk about our tools. And then after this, we're gonna jump right into some specific examples. I'm gonna show you some work from around the district. So building off that idea of safety, we've built a digital wall. I'm using Canva for this presentation, and so I like this little wall graphic in the background. But the platforms that you see there right now are Gemini, Canva, Notebook LM. We also, of course, kids have iPads, staff have MacBooks. And so although staff and students do use a lot of digital tools, Paul and I were counting the other day, I think we have about 1,000 digital tools that are on our books. Textbooks, review game platforms like Kahoot, things like that. We have really been working to narrow all of that down. Over the last year and a half since ChatGPT came onto the scene, we've allowed staff the autonomy to go out and be our research and development. They've tried all the different tools and flicked all the buttons, but now we've really narrowed it down, keeping safety in mind and keeping that digital wall in mind. So Paul, can you explain a little bit more about like our little digital wall here that we built, maybe some of the newer safety measures we put into place to protect staff and student data?
Sure. So again, kind of the digital wall, we have our approved apps list. So the applications that teachers are able to use, and we've vetted for that reason. So right now you can see the main AI tools we're pushing: Google Gemini, Notebook LM, and Canva. Why are we using these tools rather than other tools that you might be using or or you've heard of in other places? So these tools have been vetted. They're legally compliant with SAPA and FERPA, which are two laws in Illinois that protect our student data. So they go through a process, and we have signed agreements with these vendors to keep the District 214 student and staff data private. Other tools, unlike other open AI tools, those tools these tools that we have are actually, the signed agreements basically make it so they can't use our data and they can't sell the data. So they can't use it to train public models, and it's safe. It keeps it secure, and that's our goal.
Yeah, that's great. So can kids use ChatGPT?
Yeah, so again, we have autonomy. Our teachers are allowed to use different things. We allow our students to use different things. The main goal is when there's student data or more important things, we try and guide everybody towards these tools because we have those agreements in place. So are your students or are your kids using different tools? They might be, they probably are, and that's okay, but we're trying to steer them specifically when they're doing schoolwork or other things. We want to point them to this approved list.
Yeah, good idea to always be logged in with their district credentials.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Paul. So I came across this data, and I like to share this with staff when I'm doing professional development for them. And so I thought I would show you this as well. The World Economic Forum, which you can Google to read more about, but they collect data from all around the world, and they can look at like job trends and what the future jobs report and what are companies who are they hiring? Who are they hiring? What are they hiring for? What jobs are out there? What's being created? What jobs are not really seeing any growth? And the skills students need to succeed are really changing. If you're like me, I have a daughter who recently just graduated from college, and a lot of her classmates are struggling to find work. Particularly, she has a degree in computer science, which seems crazy because AI is so big. But you can see here the core skills in 2025 right now are analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility, leadership, social influence is right at the top, creative thinking. And so that's what they're looking for in the job market today. And then if you look at the top 10 fastest growing skills by 2030, and I don't know about you, but when you hear 2030, in my mind, I go to like Back to the Future. It seems like it's like futuristic. That's in 4 years. So that's the kids we're teaching right now. That's your kids. The jobs that they'll be getting. And so you can see number one right at the top of the list is AI and big data, network, cybersecurity, tech, creative thinking, resilience, flexibility, agility. So the top skills right there are not reading, writing, arithmetic, right? Clearly everybody needs to know those things. But just to make the point that skills are changing and job markets are shifting quickly, and we're just going to do the best we can to make sure that your students are prepared for the world that's waiting, actually for the world that is currently. And so I thought that would be an interesting little piece of data for you to look at, and you can Google World Economic Forum if you want to read more about that. They have tons of data, and for a physics nerd like me, that's going to be an hour of your time. So make sure you have time when you go take a look. All right, so let's get to it and have some fun here. I want to show you the things that are going around the district, and we're going to start with a quick chat. If you have the agility to multitask while you are watching this live stream, you could open a browser and go to either Gemini.google.com, ChatGPT.com, or if you're a Microsoft person, you could go to Claude, and then you can kind of work along with me if you like. We're going to type in a prompt. When you're using generative AI, what you do is you type what's called a prompt. You're essentially asking it a question or giving it an instruction, and then it's going to dip into its large bucket of knowledge, which is called a large language model. A large language model. It's late at night. It's almost my bedtime. I can get my words back. And it pulls the information out. And so this particular one, I screen recorded these because I didn't want to do it live. But you can see I typed in the prompt, plan a getaway for this weekend in Chicagoland for me and my family. If you've never used generative AI, this is a fun way to start. You can see it starts to populate immediately. This was actually last weekend when I did the screen record, but there's some fun things in there. There's ice skating. You can go to the Bean, pizza and puppets. I never heard of that. So it's kind of fun. You can do your first, have your first little chat there and try it out. And then you can see at the end, it asks a question. Would you like me to look for specific family-friendly hotel recommendations in the Loop or River North, So it's really cool. You can see how it feels very human-like. And if you've never tried it, I would suggest giving it a quick little try. So I want to show you what this looks like in practice. In my Innovation and Change committee, I asked all of those staff, I was like, hey, I'm going to be talking to parents, give me some examples, and I picked a few out. And so this is from a math teacher in the district. I'm going to read you what she said. So this is quoted. I am creating a new Algebra 2 curriculum this year. We're focusing on ACT preparation. The students are juniors, half of them are English language learners, and there's a handful of students that need individualized learning plans. So it's important to break down every problem to better explain the process. Gemini has been instrumental in guiding my lessons. So what we see here is the teacher's prompt. You can see that she wrote, scaffold this problem. The students have been working using Desmos, that's a calculator program, and finding the x-intercept. How can we apply that strategy to this problem? And then Gemini's response is here. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but it's just a portion of the response. She sent me the entire response. It was very long. There were something like 6 or 7 different steps, and it shows her exactly, like how to break it down. It shows the vocabulary to highlight in class. It discussed the Desmos app specifically It looked at the speaking and writing piece in detail. So students in her class are getting highly individualized math instruction because she has Gemini as a powerful tool. It's pretty great. Here's another one. This is from the student experience. And so I was working with a teacher who's having her students use AI to help them prepare for their AP Spanish exam. And so I know there's a lot on this slide. So let me show, explain what we're looking at. Over here is actual student work. Like it's a screenshot from a kid's iPad. I blurred out the names and we won't talk about the school, but you can see that there are screenshots from generative AI. She was using Gemini, and then there's also handwriting, and then there's more screenshots on here. And so the actual assignment, because I had the teacher tell me what it was all about, is that the student is emailing an imaginary person for this assignment. And then what she does is she took her assignment, loaded it to Gemini with the AP College Board rubric, and then asked it to give her feedback on her response. So the generative AI read the rubric, and then it read her response, and it gave her incredibly detailed feedback on how she should be rewriting her email. And she was like emailing somebody famous or something like that. And so in the past, teachers had to give this granular feedback for every single kid, for every formative assignment. Took time, didn't happen instantaneously. So much work, right, for the teacher. And so now this particular AP Spanish teacher can circulate and spend more human time with kids, discussing the content, discussing the feedback that they got from Gemini, because they're getting instant feedback on their work. So that the teacher is becoming a little bit more of a coach and helping them understand and apply that feedback in real time. So that is the shift that we're making. We're moving students from being a passive consumer who just like turn in the work to get it checked off to an active creator. They're using AI as a partner and individualized like learning just for them. They're getting specific feedback on what they wrote. So they are growing their learning in ways we could have never done before so efficiently. And AI is really embedded in here. I mean, that's really cool. It's just like right in between all of her writing. So this is really at the heart of our Future 214 strategic plan, is ensuring that every student has the opportunity to learn, to create, and to innovate. So this is incredibly intentional way that the staff member is having students use AI. Pretty exciting. And so here's a quick news alert. This was legit. I forgot, I don't know when it was, Paul, but we were talking about it the other day. I think it's only been 2 or 3 days. This is big news. Google officially partnered with the Princeton Review to bring full-length SAT practice tests directly into Gemini. So you can just prompt Gemini. You can tell it, I've got the prompt here. You can go to gemini.google.com and you can just say, I want to take a practice SAT test, and boom, the SAT test is there for you to take. It's a game changer. Standardized test prep used to be defined by expensive books and private tutors. And so this really levels the playing field. Every District 214 has access to this. And we'll see where this goes. As far as I know, there's not an ACT one right now. It's pretty good at writing ACT questions. Staff are doing that all the time with kids. But as you explore these tools, you might want to try it out, see what you can find.
And Katie, I was going to say that people are using this for any type of test also. Like SAT partnered up with them, so it's so official. But truly, if a student is looking for help with anything, or they just want to practice test kind of in what they're learning, they just prompt it and it just happens. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. You teed me up because I'm about to show it. It's perfect. And so a regular chat is what I just showed you. You open it up, there's a little window there, you type it in and you go, and you have a clean slate every time. So it's very general. Really what we've been focusing on this school year in particular is Gemini Gems. And a gem is a custom chat bot. So you put in guardrails and now you have a specialist. So it's like having a personal mentor who's already read all of the books and is sitting and just waiting for you, rather than just like wandering into a library and having to take one book off a shelf and then sitting there and reading it. You know, it's like having someone who knows all the books. So our gems stay inside our digital wall, and it's relevant to whatever the specific task is. So I shared a gem with you actually in the email that gave you today's link. And it is a D214 AI and tech assistant. And so when you get a chance, it's gonna be part of your homework for today, is to check it out. So you can think of a gem as like a specialist. It's not going into the global bucket of, you know, a general chat. It's only going to reference materials that teachers provide. So now students are getting highly curated answers because it's only looking at what we give it. For example, the technology gem that I gave you today, it opens up and it will say, you know, you can type in the word start and it will say, hi, I'm the 214 gem, you know, what do you need? And it wants to know, are you a student? Are you staff? Are you a parent? And for example, you could type in something like, how do I filter my Wi-Fi in my house? And by the way, there's me typing that in, help me filter the Wi-Fi in my home for YouTube. Are your kids on YouTube too much? We're on YouTube right now, so I'm glad you didn't filter it before today. But you know, it'll give you some ideas there. It'll tell you how to enable a restricted mode or how to actually filter it from your Wi-Fi, similar to what we do at the district level. Paul, can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So on the iPads, we've enabled content filtering. So it's on the device, so it actually follows the device home. So there's restrictions on what type of websites students can go to. It is done by category, so that's if there's different sites that fall under different. I'm trying to think of a good example of a category of gambling. Let's say gambling is blocked, so that would be any site that falls under that category should be blocked. That's also sometimes the tough part of it. We do have to adapt and kind of add things as they come up because not everything's sorted. So it's cool that the filter's on the actual device, so it follows at home. So it's not only filtered at school, but when the device is at home too.
Yeah, and if you wanted to further know how to do that, you could ask this gem that I gave you. So let's take a look at another one. This is a kinematics gem. This is one I built for my physics students, and it's meant to be a tutor for them. And so what I did is in the background, I loaded all of the documents that I gave to students during the unit, some things with some basic algebra, some questions about graphing, you know, whatever it is, it's all there. And it's student facing, so they can just type in the word physics, they get some instructions, and maybe the kid types in, like you're seeing here, give me a 4-quiz question on the unit. And the student doesn't even have to go anywhere. It automatically pops out in a new window, and it gives the kids a question right there, which is fantastic. So a lot of staff are using GEMS in class to do some formative assessing, so they can go around, they can be helping kids. Kids can be going through. You can see I'm taking this physics test. I am a physics teacher. I intentionally got some of those wrong so that I could show you some things here. Maybe if you watch the playback, this is being recorded today. You can go back and try your knowledge, you know, go take a look at it. But you see I got 3 out of 4. And if kids are doing this, they have all these options. It'll make a flashcard, a study guide. They can click on Analyze My Performance, and it's going to take a look at that and tell them what they need to go back and study. So it says, nice work completing the quiz. You know, it gives them a little encouragement. And then the highlights are there, the focus areas are there, and then the kids know what they need to focus on. It's really incredible if you think about the way that we all learned in school, how far we've come. Very powerful tools, really, really neat. Here's another tool, Notebook LM, that we discussed. I actually did a workshop on this morning for staff. This is very busy. There's not enough time tonight to explain all of this. We're running a little long already. So it's just one more tool that your student can use to take notes. There are staff that are putting this together for students and having them use for review. But the cool thing about Notebook LM that's different is it will make a podcast, it will make a video for them, it will do quizzes, flashcards, infographics. It's an incredibly powerful tool. So ask your student about Notebook LM and they can show you. So before we get to our question portion, I wanted to just address a few of the challenges that I'm sure some of you are thinking about, some of you are probably going to ask about, and believe me, these are the discussions we're having all day, every day, all across the district since November of 2022, is academic integrity. Kids are just having AI do all of their work. That's not true. But we are redesigning assignments to require personal insight. We are trying to make sure that we're valuing the journey and not just the final document. And we're really starting to intentionally teach the RISE framework to remind kids about the integrity and the responsibility and all of those things. The critical thinking aspect. AI hallucinates and gives biased information. Yeah, it does. And we're making sure that staff and students are talking about that all of the time. Don't just type it in and take what you get as the end all be all of information. That's another reason we're using Gemini Gems, because then our professional staff have created the materials that it's pulling the information from. So we can worry a little bit less about that. But we still want to empower students to be fact checkers. The environmental impact, right? Generative AI is eating up all the water. Do a quick Google search and you will be, you could be horrified, by what you read. But we do talk about sustainable AI as a part of our digital citizenship curriculum. And really the way that we're using it, we're making sure that kids are highly intentional with their generative AI use and not just using it for every one-off. And then as a side note, solving the energy and water problem is like a government-sized problem to be solved. And so at least in my role, I'm trying not to put that on our teachers and our kids to try to solve that problem as well. We want them to be equipped for the world that's waiting for them, but we are going to be intentional and not just, using it all of the time. And then the future readiness. Yeah, the job market is changing. It's shifting right under our feet as we speak. But I think the greatest risk is not teaching them. And so by mentoring them now in this safe environment, right, we're making sure that they get what they need before they graduate and move on. All right, so we are pretty much ready. We would love to start answering your questions. If you are going to hop off, I would love for you to try that AI technology gem if you get a chance. I am going to send an email to everyone who signed up for all 3 sessions. You can ignore it or join the other 2. And then maybe ask your child tonight, how are you using AI strategically this week? Or have them, show you something that they're doing at school. So thank you so much for joining us. If you're leaving, have a nice evening, and then look for the feedback, the survey that I'm sending you. I think it's scheduled sent for 8 p.m. So you're going to get another email this evening. And then Gabriella and Paul, we can answer some questions.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was such an amazing presentation. And there's so much to learn, right? And so much to consider that some of our parents don't even know what to ask quite yet. But rest assured, that survey will go out. And if you think of anything later on, definitely send us your thoughts, because it will help us connect with you all. And I do appreciate that Katie ended her presentation by assigning you all homework. So hopefully we'll all do.
I'm so sorry.
At the very least, the homework part where you ask your student, how are you using AI this week, right? Because it might be different from last week as well. And also to try out some of those gems and to send us some feedback as well. So lots of homework for you all tonight.
That's great. All right. All right. Well, with that, yeah, thanks everyone, and have a good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Give me 1 second, guys.
Oh, we got a